Hola amigos, bien o no, y saludos desde Inglaterra. El tema de hoy es para nosotros, para el recuerdo que hay una gran diferencia entre hablando con fluidez y escribiendo con fluidez. So ese es el tema de hoy. So, hello again from England. Theme of the day is to remember or remind ourselves there is a difference between speaking fluently and writing fluently. And one thing to consider in this is, I think sometimes we worry that we don't speak as well or as clearly as the examples we see when we're reading. But the thing to remember is the person that's written the stuff you're reading has probably taken a great deal of care over the finished words that you see on the page. It's probably been rewritten many times, edited, written again. Whereas when we speak, we have to put our ideas together quite quickly, and rather like I do these videos, think as we go along. So in that sense, rather like with this conversation now, it's going to sound very different to if I was asked to write a piece on this idea of what's the difference between speaking fluidly or writing with more fluency. If I had to write that as like an answer to like an exam question or something like that, the way I would phrase it would sound probably rather different to how I'm talking about it now. But that does not mean that I'm not communicating the same ideas. So this is something to think about, because my experience of speaking with a lot of my students is at the beginning, at least, there's a lot of pressure they put on themselves. They worry that they won't be speaking fluently like the books, the examples of the language they see in the books they read. And my answer to them and my challenge to you in that sense is, I don't think you need to when you're having conversations. I think when you're having conversations, as long as you're using vocabulary that matches the topic you're talking about, and your thoughts are coherent, so they kind of generally follow that train of argument, you don't need to be able to speak as though you're reciting from a book. And that would probably sound a bit strange if you did. So don't worry that you make mistakes with some of the phrasing you use, and maybe you repeat yourself, or you struggle for an occasional word, because we all do. But the thing to remember when you're in the conversation is there are usually two of you. The other person said something, you can respond to that. And if you get a bit stuck, you maybe have a chance to rephrase what you were saying so the other person understands it better. So it's not like you writing a book. That's a wholly different skill set. And that's something I think would come much later in the process of you studying the language. Because at the beginning you need to understand what the other people are saying. Then you need to have something to say back. And then as your fluency improves, your conversational skill improves with the other person. And finally, at the end of all of that, after all the listening and reading and conversations you've been having, then you can start looking at how you write this stuff in a more coherent way. And of course, if you use English perhaps as your primary language at work and you're doing a lot of emails and correspondence like that, for those type of more, let's say, standard technical communications, often you're using a fairly standard format, or you're just using a couple of key phrases and they tend to repeat a lot, and you got a lot of that help with the editing software that helps correct those odd points of grammar. So I don't think that's perhaps quite so critical to worry so much about that skill set. I would think get more comfortable with how you sound. Be happy that you have control over your voice and the way you can use it. And then when you're in the conversation, trust yourself that you do actually have somewhere deep in your memory a reservoir of words and vocabulary that are kind of appropriate to that topic you're trying to talk about, and trust yourself to think these up as you go and develop your conversation. So don't be worried if what you end up saying doesn't look like it's been written down nice and neatly in a book, because it won't. So on that happy note, I hope you find that one encouraging. Déjame saber, como siempre, en los comentarios. But for now, we'll say cheerio.